Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Alex with a end of the year Bears reflection. This will be podcasted, as you can see by the microphone here on this live stream. So if you don't hear all of it, you could either watch this video or go on my YouTube channel, where it will be reposted as just an audio video, basically. So yeah, well, let's just get right into it. Game's not officially over yet, but the Bears are down big to the Vikings. One more quarter to go. Yeah, they're not going to win this one, so looks like we are going to finish the season with 5 wins. It's kind of where we predicted them to be in the beginning of the season, but there's a lot more to that story. First of all, I think we'll start with the two elephants in the room. That's John Fox and Mitchell Trubisky. Mitchell Trubisky was the focal point of this team all season since we drafted him. People were wanting to see him play, see what he can do. He was obviously the number 1 pick of the Bears in last year's draft. He did not start a quarterback. That was free agent Mike Glennon, and as we all know, that was an epic disaster, and Glennon will probably be gone next year, and the reins were given to Trubisky, and he's been starting ever since. And we've seen some goods and bads from him. I think there is a lot of promise there. I really like his athleticism. He can be a very accurate thrower. Does have some problems, though, sometimes picking up pressure. We've seen that kind of consistently. That's something he's got to work on. Some of the footwork is something he has to work on. So there's goods, there's bads, and there's a lot of factors around it, too, considering that Trubisky is playing with a very banged-up offensive line and probably one of the worst receiving corps in the NFL. He just really never had many people downfield to target. They got Dontrelle Inman, so that helped things a little bit. They started using Adam Shaheen more, another guy they drafted just this past draft, and that started to work as they used him more until he got hurt. But you didn't see a lot of throwing downfield, and part of that is because no one was open. Part of it was the coaching and the play calling, which is one of the most irritating things of the season, considering you had Jordan Howard, you had Tariq Cohen, and both very talented guys, and they just pounded Jordan Howard in. And Tariq Cohen, there were games he didn't get many touches at all, and he was drafted to be a versatile player, not only to run, but to catch, to go downfield, to play special teams, which he has done, but we haven't been seeing him get a lot of running attempts, at least not as many as I think that a lot of us would have liked to have seen. So we could go on about Dowell Loggins here, and we'll get back to that in a minute, but yeah, overall Trubisky, you saw some good arm strength, you saw him throw some darts, you saw him struggle at times, so he's a work in progress, and it honestly, his progress was handcuffed by the coaching staff. John Fox and the conservative play, the predictable play calling by Dowell Loggins, it really didn't let Trubisky do exactly what we wanted to see. We wanted to see him go out there and just give it all, try a bunch of different things, throw downfield, but unfortunately, with the combination of targets not being open and just a lot of the play calling, the coaching, we didn't see it as much as we did. So this leads into right, John Fox, he's going to be gone. Probably the whole coaching staff is going to be gone. I mean, I can see them trying to keep Fangio, but I could see him leaving. And if they just decide to clear house with all the coaching, yeah, that's fine. And this is going to be a decision that's going to be made by Ryan Pace. Ted Phillips is going to do the research on all of this, but it's going to be Pace's decision. And it's going to be tough because there are a lot of interested teams in new coaches. A lot of coaches are going to be ousted out. Some have, and there's going to be a race for coaching because there's going to be a lot of teams looking for coaching. But from what I've heard, the Bears' job seems like something that people would want to have because they know they'd come to the Chicago Bears and they know they'd have the young asset in place in Trubisky, and they'd have a number of young assets in place. I mean, let's face it, this Bears team may not be complete, but it's got a lot of good pieces in Trubisky, Jordan Howard, Tariq Cohen, and on defense, you have guys like Eddie Jackson, you have Akeem Hicks, who's just an absolute monster and a Pro Bowl snub. Just to name a handful of young assets they have, despite the many holes this team has. So, hopefully Pace hires the right guy, and right now it's hard to say what the right guy is, but I think it's fair to say that wanting a young offensive-minded guy that could help Trubisky come along further is what would be ideal. So we'll see what happens there. It's not official yet that Fox is gone, but he's going to be gone, and that probably won't happen until Black Monday tomorrow, depending on when you're listening to this, Monday after the season's over. So that'll be an interesting search, and it's going to be a very interesting offseason because it's very important. This is a huge one for Pace, and I know we said that the past few years, but think about it. He's entering another year. He's going to be hiring a new head coach. He has all these young assets to build around, and we're getting to the point where we're saying, okay, we got to turn this around. Like, we got to start being competitive next year. No more rebuilding, and I've been patient with this. It's been a multi-year project. I get the process. I get that they've been in a lot of games that they haven't won, and I get that the coaching has kind of held things back a little bit, but next year, they got to start competing. Even if that just means around a 500 record, if they're in a playoff race, that's the progress we need to see next year. No more sub 500, because if that's the case, then I think they got to make more management changes. Pace is kind of approaching thin ice here. So this offseason, there's a lot of places to address. He's going to do his draft. He's going to have to sign guys, and we know that the signings have not really worked out under Ryan Pace for the most part. The drafting, we've seen some good things from the drafting, but everything needs to work. And the holes need to be filled accordingly. Places to address. I talked about this earlier on Twitter. Obviously, wide receiver, one of the biggest ones. Offensive line, it's old, it's banged up. Kyle Long has suffered so many injuries, and it sucks to see because he's been so good. You have Josh Sitton. He's up there. He's kind of past his prime. You're going to need some revamping on the tackles, that's for sure. So you're going to have to give these young guns in Trubisky, Howard, and Cohen their protection. It's essential. And then you go in other places. People brought up pass rushers, definitely something that would be needed. I didn't list it on my initial tweet, but many people brought it up, and they're definitely right. Pass rushing is going to be something that they're going to need to look into. And then you look at the defense. You're going to want some secondary depth, especially the corners, I think. I think you're going to need more on the corners. And you look at the linebacking core, you have some guys there like Trevathan. Unfortunately, Jarrell Freeman has had injury problems and substance problems. You're going to need to look to build some depth on the linebacking core as well. I really like where the D-line is. I think the D-line is very, very good. So build up the linebacking core, keep building the secondary, keep building that offensive line, and get some wide receiver talent in here. The holes are there. Pieces are there. It's been very hard for the Bears the past few years considering how many injuries they've sustained, especially with Leonard Floyd. I mean, I was picking him to have just a huge breakout year, and we saw him do some great things this year, but then he got injured. Speaking of injuries, it pains me to say, but I think Kevin White's a lost cause. They're just going to have to move on from that. And then other guys, we just got to stay healthier in the future. And I know it's hard to control that, but that's just one thing that has to be better. Injuries are going to happen. They happen to every team. But for the Bears to work, they need to fill these holes with the right guys. They need the right coaching going forward. And we got to hopefully keep them healthier. Because I think that this Bears team, considering how many close games they were in and could have / should have won, if this team was fully healthy throughout the year and they made a few more plays they should have in a couple games, like against the Vikings at home, against the Atlanta Falcons opening week, against the Saints, even though part of that was because the NFL made just an unbelievably disgusting call on Zach Miller. Those are games the Bears could have won. And if that was all the case, would they be a playoff team? No. Too many holes, too many good teams around them. but they'd be in the hunt longer. I think they could have been a 7-8 win team if things kind of went a little smoother. And I know that kind of sounds like drinking Kool-Aid, but if you factor in the injuries, you factor in the questionable conservative coaching that really kind of stalled things, and you factor in just maybe one or two things that happened wrong, like the dropped passes in the end zone against the Falcons, they'd have a few more wins, and they'd be around 500. So it's kind of what we predicted in this season, that there were going to be a lot of those close games that the Bears just would barely lose because they have stuff, but they don't have enough stuff, so to say. So hopefully that's something positive to build on because, like I said, we need to start competing or else this is going to be set back even further, and that's the last thing we want. We saw the Trestman era come and go. We've now seen the Fox era come and go. Ryan Pace, he came in when Fox came in. Well, Pace came in first, obviously, but this is it for him. His career, his reputation in Chicago is riding on Mitchell Trubisky and how he builds the team around him. And the clock is ticking on him because not a lot of room for error in the NFL. If you don't get results soon, you're gone. I mean, we've seen GMs and coaches get fired for less than this. John Fox and everything that happened there. One of the stats that bugs me the most about the John Fox era, 3 wins. 3 against the NFC North. 1 against the Lions, 1 against the Packers, 1 against the Vikings. In 3 years. That's not going to do it. That really irks me. I mean, losing to the Packers always sucks more than anything, but against your whole division like that, that's not going to keep you any jobs. So you got to hope for the best going forward. Other things I'll say about the season was I feel like there were many times when the Bears were doing things right early on, like especially in the Detroit game against Detroit at home. You know, they were off to the races. They were scoring. They were doing really good things. They were spreading the play calling around, targeting guys, different areas, calling different plays, mixing up everything that we've wanted to see. But then once they got that lead, they went back to the conservative, predictable play calling, and it ended up costing them. That really, really was annoying. So as we look for a new coach, we want that mentality gone, and I'm sure every Bears fan does too. So the coach search is going to be interesting. It's another frustrating year of sub 500 play. We've been wanting to see a lot of progress, and we've seen progress. I mean, compared to where this team was at the end of the Trestman era, believe it or not, this is much better than that, but it's still not good enough. That shows how low the Bears were in that era. It really, really does. So there's no more excuses going forward. Things need to turn around in a positive direction. This is a huge offseason, and right now, we just have to sit and wait. It's going to be a long offseason, but something that's going to be... I think the most important times in this offseason are when we find out who the next coach is and draft night. Two big, important things. And then, of course, you get into training camp and you hope that everyone you're bringing back and all your young, important guys stay healthy and that the new rookies that come in will, obviously they'll be drafted and hopefully they can fit in at camp and things work out well. So buckle up for another offseason, Bears fans, and hopefully we can get this turned around by next year. All right, that'll be it for now. Bye-bye.